Don't settle for fakes. My duel-taining is the real deal.
Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Sucks is a take that a lot of people seem to have recently, and it's not completely unjustified. Full disclosure, I am very aware that this is a very clickbaity thumbnail and title and everything, but hey, first of all, you're here, so clearly that worked. And second of all, there's no denying that for a game with such a strong nostalgia-based brand, Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't do a great job when it comes to recruiting new players. Like, obviously, people still go to tournaments, tournament attendance is at an all-time high, but are we getting as much fresh blood as we should be? I don't think so. It's a game that is incredibly complex and insanely punishing for new or returning players. Like, say, you were playing Yu-Gi-Oh! As a child, then you, I don't know, forgot about it, didn't have time to play anymore, you just grew out of it, it happens. And you recently, stumbled upon Master Duel and you're like, oh, that's the game from my childhood that I like, I'm gonna give it a try, and then you do the tutorial that re-explains the basic that you learned as a child, and then you go into PvP and whoa, this is clearly not the same game as the peak Yu-Gi-Oh! Experience World Championship 2006. And yeah, you can argue that, these people only ever experienced a playground version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like incomplete cards and like misunderstanding some of the rules, but let me ask you this. When was the last time you saw someone set a flip monster that wasn't exactly Subterra Guru? Flip monsters aren't something that just stopped existing after 2005. People were playing Raikou, the Lights 1 and 3rd players. Heck, even less than 10 years ago, people were like setting Shadow monsters. Remember when defense points mattered at all? Like you couldn't beat over Gravekeeper's, what's his name? Spy, I think the guy was called, because monsters weren't big enough. Remember battle traps like Dimensional Prison or Mirror Force? Mirror Force is a big one. Like there have been many variants of Mirror Force. Storming and Blazing Mirror Force, I think is the name of the card, were cards that were still played in the early 2010s, and that nothing just disappeared. The only traps that still see competitive play are either end traps or cards that prevent your opponent from playing the game entirely. Or archetypal stuff like, Eldritch, Labyrinth stuff, but that only works in these archetypes, so. Remember when you had to use fusion materials from the end, field, or sometimes graveyard, instead of just from the deck? Remember when special summons were the norm, and they were actually, special, and they had because you had a limit on the number of normal summons you could do per turn. There was only one, and then some archetypes came and said, no, you can do as many as you like. And okay, sure, whatever. But then special summons, right? You had cards like Monster Reborn that was just the summon, special. Gillosaurus, the first printing of Gillosaurus, like, this is the really special thing that is not normal. And now it's just the norm for every archetype to do like 5+ special summons per turn. I'm not saying all of these changes like good or bad, like obviously Maxi was legal up until 2017, so it's not like past formats are automatic bangers, but I'm saying it's undeniable that the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Was when you were a child and the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Is taught to you through the tutorial of Master Duel is not the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Is played nowadays. A lot of the fundamental rules of the game no longer apply. You can just ritual summon from deck now, who cares? You have ton of other extra deck summons, some monsters don't have levels don't even matter at all, it's just a thing that happened over time. Anyway, that's where we're at. I could do a video essay on why Yu-Gi-Oh! Sucks, that's not what I'm gonna do here. If you're interested in that, please let me know in the comments, I might actually get to work on that. But the point I'm trying to make, first and foremost, that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really hard to get into because of its complexity, and Konami is really aware of that as well, which is why Duel Links exists. It's sort of like reset button with a limited card pool that provided room for, you know, less popular decks and archetypes to shine. You know, when I started playing, the best deck of the format was like Red Eyes Zombie Dragon Turbo. And then we moved on to GX, and people were playing Ancient Gear, normal summoning Ancient Gear Golem with no tributes thanks to a pretty cool skill. And then there was like Masked Hero, Prey Xyz Gergia, Amazonas that everybody hated, Kristrons, Shiranui, like again, not all bangers, but different from what you'd expect from the TCG. Unfortunately, Duel Links is also starting to reach the point where it's getting more and more complex and very hard to get into for new players, both because skills have gotten just incredibly long and convoluted, and also because the card pool has started to expand into modern archetypes, stuff like Orcust, Salamangreat. We've also gotten Mech Knights this year, which is like why pretty much every deck that was really good this year was either a modern archetype or a decent retro-ish archetype that has gotten a completely busted scale to support itself. And that sucks. And yet, there is a solution to save Yu-Gi-Oh! And this solution is called Rush Duels. And I know that exactly 3 people played Rush Duels outside of Japan, so I get that you're all skeptical and stuff, but hear me out on this one. It's actually really fun. Cards are formatted in a way that makes them very easy to read and understand at first glance, with the, you know, the cost being separated from the effects and the level being, you know, just put there instead of having to count the number of stars on anything. Card text is like overall short like that. Some cards are not pushing it, but cards do like 1 or 2 things at most, so it's not that hard to understand what they do. For comparison's sake, just look at this card, like, right, absolutely insane card, way too many words, way too many effects. Do you really expect people to commit this to memory? I know this is the Magic of the Gathering card and that this bit has run its course, but can you do me a favor and recite the entire card text for Virtual World Mayhime Lulu? I've also read there's a complaint leveled against Rush Duels that it is too beatdown centric. And it's like, yeah, the game where you have to reduce your opponent's life point to 0 is going to have some monsters fighting to deal damage, as opposed to just staring at a board of monster that say negates 30 times over and conceding on the spot. Jesus Christ, my hair is a mess. Eesh. And yet it's not just a stat check, like it's not like biggest monster wins all the time at all times, you know, they have battle tricks and removal and other form of interaction that you can activate. Trap cards are relevant again. How about that? You get to activate trap cards and do something in this game. All of these can be both generic or archetypal, because depending on what deck you are playing, depending on what type of monster you've chosen to play, or even like just pure archetypes, you have different options. How about that? It's the same design philosophy that has guided Yu-Gi-Oh! Since Gladiator Beasts, but done better. You still have a lot of resource management involved, like not only do you want to empty your hand pretty much every turn so you get to draw 5, but you also want to get monsters to your graveyard as quickly as possible, because there are a lot of cards that require you to have a certain amount of monsters in your graveyard to be activatable at all. But that's not all. Your opponent can also interact with your graveyard with a couple of cards. The fact that you're not limited on normal summons means that Konami understands that limiting summons doesn't do anything. Like, they know what their own game is like. But it also means that you always have the possibility to do some really cool stuff, really combo-centric plays, and it's a really fast-paced game. And the fact that you're drawing up to 5 cards per turn means that there's always room for comeback as well. And like visually, it's still Yu-Gi-Oh! To its core. You know, you have dragons, you have robots, you have waifus, you have dragons, you have robot dragons. There's so many dragons, that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! You have classic fan favorite stuff like Blue Eyes, Harpies, Daedalus, Monarchs coming back to the game and actually being relevant because you can actually get to play them in a lower powered format than the TCG. But you also have like tons of new exciting stuff like dinosaurs that really like Upstart Goblin. Seriously, they're all stuff that they like Upstart Goblin, and they're very rich because of it. That's the aesthetic of this archetype. Dinosaurs that are very rich. You have a whole new type in Galaxy that looks pretty cool. There's also like a bunch of like fusion types that I don't fully understand. Like a cyborg is a fusion between a machine and something that's not a machine. And also, and this is really shocking to me, Rush Duel is the first Yu-Gi-Oh game to experiment with artworks like this. Just look at this. Look at this. Could be a Pokemon card. What, didn't we get this before? And I know what you're thinking now. mekklord, please tell me where can I play this amazing sounding experience that will fill me with joy and ease the pain that Master Duel inflicted upon me. You have two options. The first one is a $40 digital-only, Switch-only video game that received zero marketing and zero updates after it released, even though its Japanese counterparts keep, expanding the card pool and stuff. It's a fine game. You can play a couple of decks, but I don't know if I'd recommend it because, like, you get to collect the entire card pool pretty quickly. And there's only so much you can do with, like, I think there's only 300 cards. Also, it's very sluggish. Like, when you're done doing everything you can do in a main phase, there's a little pop-up that says you can't do anything anymore in this phase. Would you like to move to the battle phase? Which is like, yeah, I was gonna do that anyway. Fuck off, let me do my thing. The second option is you wait until September when Rush Duels become available in Duel Links. I might be getting excited a little bit too quickly because we don't really have an idea of how Rush Duels will be implemented in Duel Links yet. Like, we know there's gonna be skills, but we don't know like the deck sizes and how many life points. But I'm also hoping that this introduction to Rush Duels through Duel Links is going to finally motivate Konami enough to like release Rush Duel products outside of the East and to the West, so that we Americans and Germans and Spaniards and French people, I'm French, I don't know if you could tell from the accent, but I'm French, so that we can finally play this actually amazing format. I'm coping really hard on this though. Nonetheless, I hope that I managed to get you interested in this wild and mostly untamed format. I mean, unless you're living in Japan. Have you had the opportunity to play Rush Duels yet? And if so, what did you think of them? Are you looking forward to playing Rush Duels in Duel Links specifically, or even in paper play? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe along the way. And that's gonna be it for me. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought. And I'll see you guys and gals and non-binary pals next time.